Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. We talk each week about the digital world, loud, crowded, half truths, all kind of bad stuff, bad font, bad pictures and everything. You need professionals like the team at Oak City Tech to help you get that message out to your current clients as well as your future clients. Go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for, and they'll be able to help you with that. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and the surrounding towns. Each week, about 31 chapters and almost 530 members get together, and our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. Our special guest this week, Felicia Hatcher with E3 Realty. Felicia is a member of RD20, Bridge to Success. They are in Mebane. So if you're out that way, you want to meet some good people, please join them Tuesdays at 8:30 on Zoom. Felicia, good to have you on the show. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
You bet. Glad to have you here. Felicia and we've known each other for a little bit. I think we're going on 9, 10 months, however long, whenever you join BNI again.
Yeah,
And we've done a couple
absolutely.
of one-to-ones, and I like the way she does business. And when we have one-to-ones, she entertains me. So everybody knows that's who I want to have on the show. It's people that entertain me.
Love to.
Real estate, Felicia. I know we could talk 8 hours about how
Yes.
this market is goofy. It's changed and what you need. You and your partner Dave Neal have recently started E3 Realty Group. We're going to get
Yes.
to that in a second.
Okay.
Congratulations on that.
Thank
But
you.
from I'm thinking about buying or I'm thinking about selling.
Hmm.
I'd just like to give some educational tips on what to think about. We've had, realtors on here before. The
Sure.
funny thing, Felicia, is the last two numbers I've heard, tell me if I'm close, they're like 12,200 licensed real estate agents in the triangle alone. And I
Mhm.
think a number I heard a couple weeks ago, there were only 300 listings.
That sounds about right. And you know, it's funny. So the team leader here, so our office is inside of Keller Williams Preferred in Briar Creek. And so our team leader here, Brian Pate, he's always giving us the stats every Monday on the market, the inventory. And so I do think though, in terms of the number of realtors, I think it's dropped from that 12,000. I believe it's somewhere around 11, I believe is where that number is. But yeah, inventory, I don't have the stats for today, but around 300 does sound pretty accurate, if not less than that. So yeah, it's insane.
And that's a math problem right there for the realtors who don't get out and look for the business. And I brought this up before and I'll say it again. I
Mhm.
find it humorous when
Mhm.
somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to get my real estate's license. I just want to work part time, put a
Yes.
couple of signs in a couple of yards, the houses sell real fast." What they don't tell you is that you put in 6 months, you could put in up to 6 months with a client before you're
Yes.
able to put your sign in their yard. And it just cracks me up the amount of work that y'all have to
Yes.
do just to get a client.
Absolutely. And you know, that's the thing too. And I think a lot of times people get caught up on the Facebook post, right? So we always post that, oh, we just went under contract or they closed, but you have no idea all the horror stories that it took us to get to that point. So it's this false perception that is really easy. And so many people will say, oh, I'm going to go get my license. And it's almost kind of disrespectful because it's like you're assuming that I'm not working hard for what I'm doing. And then a lot of those people, you'll kind of follow up with them, and either they didn't pass the test because it's pretty intense to get your real estate license. It's no joke. Or once they do it, they realize just how difficult it is. So once you talk to them again, a year down the line, oh no, I went back to my full time job. I got off the market. So it is, I compare it to childbirth. And the reason why I say that is because when you have those crazy transactions, it's almost like when you're giving birth, you're going through labor and the pain is so intense, you think you would never do it again. And then you see this beautiful baby and you forget all about that pain. So it's the same thing when you're selling the house. It's just like, you're like, if I can finally get done with this seller, get done with this buyer, it was a nightmare. but you get to closing day and you forget all about it and you move on to the next person. So it's definitely it's about the same to me.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I like that. Of course, not having gone through childbirth, I didn't have that analogy. My simple analogy was it's like a duck on a pond. Looks beautiful above water, but underwater, you're paddling like heck to get to where
Yes,
you need to be
so
because
true.
you've got, again, there's just no inventory right now.
Mhm.
But what people don't talk about in your world, which is so crucial right now, is the
Mhm.
art of negotiations when you have multiple offers, either buyer or seller on the table.
Yes, absolutely. And so it's funny you say that. We're actually in the middle of that process this weekend, kind of working through a seller with a multiple offer situation. And so what's happening right now is that we put the houses on what's called a coming soon status. So coming soon just kind of lets the market know, hey, this house is coming. Well, what you have to do is almost now, there was a time before where you would never make an offer on a house you didn't see. Now you really have to make an offer on a coming soon. So we upload as many photos as we can. We have a professional photographer come in and take photos, but those photos are in and we're going to go under contract under coming soon before it even makes it live to the market. So you do have to get more creative to do that, but you have to have a level of trust with your realtor to make sure that they've kind of did all the fact finding. It got you as much information as they can prior to you doing that. But in this market, unfortunately, if you're going to win a deal, you're going to have to think outside the box and do things differently.
And I know when you're representing, let's start with the buyers first.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna make up a couple numbers just to make my point here, but let's
Hmm.
say easily there's 5 offers, just multiple
Hmm.
offers, and that's a low number right now. A
Sure.
couple of them could be probably 4 of them are overpriced, over
Hmm.
the asking price, not overpriced, let me say that better,
Yes.
over the asking price.
Hmm.
Probably 2 of those are cash offers.
Hmm.
And if you're representing the seller, how do you go about deciding which is the offer to take? What kind of things do you take into consideration?
So in this scenario, I'm representing the seller, correct? I'm
Mhm.
the listing agent and the
Yep.
seller's agent. So pretty much kind of what we're doing now is one of the things that we'll do is before we even put the house on the market, we've already looked at their neighborhood. So we know what's the average days on market, how many days does it take for the house to go under contract, and then what did the houses go over list price. So if you see on average your neighborhood is giving you maybe about $30,000 over list price, that's what that seller is going to hone in on. They want that 30,000. So we take a look at how much of a list price. We take a look at due diligence because due diligence is how much they're giving that seller to take their home off the market. So they call it skin in the game. The more money you put down, the more we know that once we start negotiating repairs, if something comes up, you're probably not going to back out because you're not ready to give up $30,000 or $20,000 that you put down. So you have how much they're going over list price, you have the due diligence, and then you also have the type of loan. And I kind of hate when I say that, but it is true because depending on that seller's motivation and their time frame. Or actually, here's a better example: investor versus non-investor. I have some sellers who do not want to deal with investors at all because they know that it's going to be a rental situation and there's going to be a lot of people coming in and out. So they want it to be the person's primary residence. So those are all the things that we're looking at with the offer. And then also we are looking at the type of offer because the type of offer is going to determine whether the seller is going to have to make repairs. And in this market, the seller does not want to make repairs. So they may, sway towards a conventional loan a little bit faster than maybe an FHA or a VA because they're going to have more repairs. But it really just comes down to what's important to them.
And then you've gotta be able to explain to the seller
Mhm.
if there's one deal of the 5 that's just that wows them for whatever reason, why that
Mhm.
may not be the best offer for them.
Absolutely. Yes, because people always think price, like price is the best, but it's not always about the price. There's several factors that are going to be playing in that part. So you have to kind of look at the whole offer as a whole, and you have to see what's the seller's motivation. Like we've won deals before where literally the seller needed a rent back. Like they were going to be closing on another property, but they need those proceeds. So they want to close on this date, but they want to keep possession for 2 weeks and they don't want to pay for it. They don't want to pay you rent. So sometimes it can be a matter of this particular offer is flexible because they have an apartment lease. The lease is not up until July, but they're going to go ahead and take advantage of this home because the dates work out where they can maybe do a 60-day closing. So there's so many different things that factor in. The money is great, but it's not always a winning factor.
Looking back at all the business you did the last 2 weeks, how late in an evening was the latest phone call you took?
Oh my goodness. It's so funny you asked that question. So probably the latest phone call was about 10:30. And I normally do not take a 10:30 phone call, but I knew throughout the day we were navigating a whole lot of things and I knew it was going to be late. So when she texted me, I was like, I'm going to answer. I'm going to take your call, but this is not the norm. But you know what? The thing is, I love what I do. And Dave and I, with this partnership, we both have such a heart for our clients. We really like, we talk all big and bad in a consultation. We're like, oh, after 7 p.m., we're done for the day. But literally, if somebody calls us after 7, we're going to take the phone call.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I try to have that work-life balance with my family, but my family's super supportive and they know how much I love my clients. So sometimes it's hard for me not to answer their phone call.
It is, and because it's so competitive, and it may
Yeah,
be, you may be 3 weeks down the road on a deal, and that's one
yeah,
last answer needed to be gotten, and you need to give it
absolutely.
to them. So,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you literally like you cannot wait
yeah.
sometimes. So
Oh, yeah.
real estate is a very temperamental beast for sure.
I don't know your partner, Dave. I give him immediate credit for partnering with you because I'm a fan of you. So we'll just leave that at
Thank
that.
you.
Now,
Awesome.
what made you decide to create E3 and why? How did you and Dave come together?
So Dave and I met over about a year ago, actually, and we our working relationship kind of developed a little bit more. He helped a lot with the Pretty in Pink project I do for my sister. So I think that's where our relationship kind of really solidified itself. And so our business goals are very aligned. The clients we work with, we're both very a lot of referrals and spear heavy. So we align up in a lot of ways. And so different individuals had approached us about being on their team. And we always knew that we just are not meant to be on somebody else's team. So we were just chatting one day and we were like, what if we just combine forces? What would that look like? And so we kind of played with the idea for a little bit. Started kind of working some clients together just to see if we thought it would be a good fit. And it was just it was a no-brainer. So we were like, okay, we need to make this official. So that's E3. And we did, excuse me, our slogan is enrich, empower, and equity. So we're all about enriching our clients' lives, empowering them, talking to them about equity and generational wealth. So it was just a no-brainer.
All right. So you're outgoing and incredibly smart. So what does Dave bring to the table here?
He has a smooth voice. His voice is very
I like him even more now. Yes.
his voice is smooth. But I tell people it's funny though. I always tell my clients, if you enjoy working with me, just imagine working with me times 1,000.
There you
So
go.
Dave is definitely my superpower for sure.
And congratulations. Now you have a work husband, don't you?
I work husband,
Yeah.
yes. 2 husbands now.
I've had work wives before. They actually work out pretty well as long as your spouse knows
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. I'm enjoying it. Cannot
Yep.
complain.
How did you guys land on the name E3?
So that's interesting. So we kept kind of talking about what we wanted it to stand for and what kind of things are important. So we just kind of started just throwing out some names of just what we wanted to do for people. And so Dave has a financial background, so he always focuses on the equity, the generational wealth. This just that part of it. He's big on education before he even talks about what you're looking for. He's going to educate you. So we just kind of started throwing out just some of our key values. And so we were just playing around with ideas and we was like, okay, it's all E's and then 3. And we were just like, you know what, E3 is pretty cool. So we love the just the concept of it. And, we're going to grow our team and we have this big vision and we didn't want it to be Dave, Neil, Felicia Hatcher Real Estate Group because it's kind of hard to get people on board and join your team when it has your name. But E3 is something that everyone can get behind. And it's something that as we grow, they're joining E3, not the Dave and Felicia show. So it was just kind of it was organic.
And one of those things people don't talk about when they do finally sell their house, and you certainly probably not going to take them on as financial advisors, but
Mhm,
sitting with them, hey, with the proceeds, what are
mhm.
you trying to do? What goals you wanting to accomplish? So you can kind of help sellers that way as well.
Absolutely, definitely so. I mean, we wear a lot of hats, you know, we're helping you get your house ready, but we are also helping them navigate that next phase of life and kind of thinking about what are your next steps. And right now, the equity that they're gaining is it's unimaginable right now. Like literally, when we're working with someone in new construction and we see what they went under contract for versus what they closed for, that huge amount. Sometimes we're talking about 70 and $80,000 worth of equity when they sign the line. So we're always making sure that we are educating people, talking them through that process. And for sellers now, you know, the biggest thing I'll get from sellers is they're like, well, we want to sell, but we're going to pay too much for a house. And I tell them, really, you're getting the best of both worlds because honestly, yeah, you are going to overpay for the house, but you're selling your house for way more than what you ever could have sold it for. So you got to kind of pick your battles and realize that, you know, on one end, you're paying more, but on the other end, you're gaining. You see what I'm saying? So it's going to level itself out in the end.
And I think I heard, and speaking of numbers in your world, last couple of weeks, that the average increase in the value of a house the last couple of years
Mhm.
is 13 to 18%. Is that
Yeah,
about
around
right?
about 18%. Yep,
Okay.
it's around about 18%. Absolutely.
And you never know. Obviously, we didn't see COVID come along, so you don't really know what's going to happen, but there's really no signs of anything slowing down for now, is there?
No, not with Apple coming. I mean, we have so many. So one of the great things about our partnership that I love is we have tons of referrals. And so we have these great referral partners all throughout the country. So we get referrals from out of state all the time, and everyone is wanting to get close to RTP. Triangle, they want to be close to Apple. So I do not see this slowing down. We saw an uptick whenever Amazon opened their distribution center. I think it was maybe last year, the year before, out in Garner. We saw that, but then now with Apple coming here, and I think there's another tech company, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's like Simple Smart or Simple something, but it's another tech company that's looking at having a hub here in the RTP area. So as long as we have this growth, it is not going to slow down. And as a matter of fact, they still have this area ranked on like one of the top 5 places to live. So I don't see any slowdown coming anytime soon.
Oh, I'm with you on that, and you'll probably
Mhm.
eventually need to add another team member, I'm sure. Uh,
Yes, absolutely.
so so you've been in the real estate world 13-ish years in one
Mhm.
form or another, right? So how
Yes.
does
Mhm.
young Felicia from Goldsboro get to be a killer real estate agent in the Triangle?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? So, I have been in real estate for a couple of years. I initially started in Atlanta on site for new construction. So, new construction is my baby. I absolutely love it. But, you know, I got out of the market. I was in insurance and a couple other industries. And so, real estate was always my passion. It was something I always knew I wanted to do. And so, when I decided to go general brokerage, it was just a leap of faith. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just leave corporate America, dive into this. And my sphere, I have such a great spirit that really wraps their arms around me and support me. So it was just an easy transition. I use the word easy a lot, and it doesn't sound fair sometimes because this job is not easy. This career is not easy, but I just have a great support system, and I am just very thankful that I have Raven fans, and I work really hard for them, and they see my heart, and they see that I care about the transaction. So it just translates to them referring more and more business to me. So that's how Felicia from Goldsboro gets it done.
When you were growing up, was anybody in your family in the real estate world in any way, shape, or form?
No, not in real estate, but my father is an entrepreneur by heart. So he's had so many jobs. My dad can just think of an idea and turn it into a business. And I'm talking about a successful business. So that's just one of the things, and I get that from him. Just that drive and that determination. And probably the closest, he did used to sell timber. So that was my first kind of experience of just kind of learning anything about land and how valuable timber is, and how valuable trees are. So I did get a little bit of education on that part of it. But no, I'm the first realtor in the family. So one and only. So it's been pretty good.
Yeah, for now. So
For now,
from
yeah.
Goldsboro, what got you to North Carolina Central for college?
So that's a interesting story. So when I graduated high school, I went to Wayne Community College. It's a local community college in Goldsboro. Because you graduate from high school and you're like, okay, what do I want to do? And I wasn't quite sure what my path was, and I didn't want to waste my parents' money and go off to a university and not do well. So I started in a community college first, and I actually had plans to go to UNC Greensboro. And when you're at a community college, you have credits that transfer over. And I didn't quite have enough credits yet to transfer to UNC Greensboro. And I was ready to get out of Goldsboro. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this leap. And so I started at North Carolina Central. I planned to only be there for a semester, and I was going to go ahead and transfer. But again, I got there, I made really good friends, and I just didn't leave. So I guess it was just meant for me to be there.
In the degree in business management, your vision was to do what?
So actually, I wanted to work in advertising and marketing. I always wanted to work for like a Nike and, just have all these ideas or do commercials. And that's kind of where I thought I was going to go. And then I wanted to move to Atlanta. So once I graduated from college, I went to Atlanta and I lived there for about 10 years. And so I was working in property management. And whenever I bought my first house, when I purchased my home, the on-site agent was like, "What do you do right now?" So I told her, and she goes, "Have you ever thought about real estate?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't really." She was like, "Would you please just meet my sales director? You should have a conversation." And literally, I met with her, and she hired me on the spot.
Wow.
And so I didn't see real estate coming. I guess she enjoyed my personality, and it was just a natural. So I got to use the advertising and marketing now, just not in the capacity that I thought I would use it in.
I can see you on this big Nike shoot with celebrities and singers and athletes and
Absolutely.
everything, and you just
Mhm.
you're directing the show just like it's yours, right?
Absolutely. That was the plan, but it worked out in other ways for sure.
It is funny in life because most people, if you talk to them, they're not in the industry that they got their college degree
Yeah.
in, but that's a beauty. You just never know who's gonna call you and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, talk to this person." And I tell people all the
Absolutely.
time, "Talk is cheap. Have a
Yeah.
conversation. Not gonna hurt you at all, so good for
Absolutely.
you doing that." But then what
Yeah.
got you to Raleigh from Atlanta?
So, what brought me back, and I had no plans of ever moving back to North Carolina. Like, I absolutely loved Atlanta. So much stuff to do, and I never thought I would come back. And so, actually, my sister had gotten diagnosed with cancer, and so we thought, she went through chemo radiation, and we thought she beat it. So I was like, okay, I'm one of those people. I'm just when something that close to me happens, it just kind of makes me just really refocus. And I was like, my top priority is my family. And at the time, we had one child. I think my daughter was, oh gosh, I guess Aubrey was maybe 3 at that point. And so I really just wanted to be close to her. And I was like, okay, this was a scare. I could have lost her, but I was so thankful that I didn't. So I really just wanted to live the rest of my life close to her where I can see her every day. We can raise our kids together. So that's what initially brought me back to North Carolina, was to be closer to her. And then probably about maybe 2 years after I got here, she did her cancer came back, and she did pass away from cancer. So I thought I would go back. I really, really thought I would go back to Atlanta because I felt like that's kind of where I became an adult. And that's where all my adult friends were, and my life was there. But my nephew was only 8 when my sister passed. So there was absolutely no way that I could leave him. So I just decided that I would just stay and plant my roots back at home.
Well, and we are glad you did, and I know, one of the things I like talking about on the show with folks like you is the ties to the community, and you ended
Sure.
up doing a fundraiser for your sister.
Yes. So Pretty in Pink is actually an organization right here based out of Raleigh. And what I love about Pretty in Pink is that they help breast cancer patients who either are underinsured or uninsured. And thankfully for my sister, she was a biologist. So she had all of her stuff together. Like, she was very methodical in everything she did. And so we were so fortunate that she didn't have to go through an issue of, not worrying about how she was going to pay for her health care, but I see the stress and the toll that cancer takes on the patient and then also the family members, the person taking care of them. And the best way for me to kind of cope with my pain and my loss from my sister is just helping other people. And so each year, so this year will be my third year doing it once we started again, but we do a breast cancer walk in honor of my sister. We raise money and all of those proceeds does go to the Pretty and Pink Foundation, but also not just raising money, but I'm just big on education. And in our community, unfortunately, we don't talk a lot about our health and our history. And your family history is so important because for women, if you have a history of breast cancer in your family, you need to be having screening at age 25. You can't wait till you're 40 years old to have your first mammogram. And that's where we run into a problem is that women are not having those self checks or not getting mammograms when they should. And unfortunately, when they find the cancer, it's progressed to a stage that's out of control and harder to manage. So this is just my way just to keep her memory alive and just to support her.
And I'm glad you do that. I lost both my folks to cancer. My dad's was
So
long,
sorry to
drawn
hear
out,
that.
and my mom's was quick, and it sucks. It just there's
Yeah, so
nothing.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it just, but you're right, it's tough on the family,
It is. It
because there's a
absolutely is.
lot of, yeah, just a lot of stress, and you know what's gonna happen for the most part, you know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen, and that just kinda makes it even worse, but, were you the older or younger sister?
I was the younger sister. I was the baby sister.
So was it just the 2 of you?
No,
Siblings?
I have a younger brother. So my brother is actually 7 years younger than me.
Okay.
So we didn't, because our parents took such a big break.
Yeah,
We kind of feel like we grew up in two different households
yeah.
almost. But yeah, but there's three of us all together.
Alright, so you and I share another thing, we're both middle children,
Oh, okay.
which understands why we turned out so well.
The middle is the best.
We're gonna go with that story, so, what was
Yeah,
the age difference between you and your sister?
3 years.
Okay, were you pretty tight?
Oh, extremely. And it's funny because a lot of times whenever I lived in Atlanta, so we would talk every morning before work. And it was funny. We'll just be talking about random conversation and we may just ask, like we would end up somehow we'll talk about clothes and we would have on either the same color or a very similar outfit. Or if we chatted like later that day, we had like the same thing for lunch. And we used to tell my mom all the time, we should have been twins because literally we were like this. So it was really, really hard. Not having her, but she's my guardian angel. And this necklace that I wear was actually her necklace. So I have a couple of
Oh,
things
wow.
from her that I keep with me that I feel closer that she's with me every day when I have it on.
That's cool, I like that a lot. Were you the type of little sister you just wanted to tag along everywhere she went because she was so
I
cool?
did. I did. Literally, like anything my big sister did, I wanted to do. So I was definitely, but she had this way of just encouraging me. Like anything I did, she was just like, you can do this. You're amazing. It was so funny whenever I came back to this area and I was actually in insurance at that point. Like all of her friends, she's like, you need to talk to my sister, switch to State Farm, let her do a quote. Like she will sell you life insurance. So anything I did, she was just such a huge supporter. And I know if she was here now seeing me in my real estate career, it would be absolutely it would be amazing because she would definitely keep me busy with a lot of work. And
N
she had that persuasive personality. So she told you to do something, you're going to do it.
Nice. Now, when you dated and eventually married, did you had to get the sign off from her, right?
Well, yeah, kind of sort of. So that was pretty interesting. They always had thoughts and opinions about my boyfriends.
Yeah.
And I didn't always make the best choices. So she would definitely let me know if I was making a wrong choice, but she absolutely had to sign off for sure. But my family's a deal breaker. So anybody I dated, you have to understand, I'm going to talk to my sister multiple times a day. My aunt is a couple years, she was about maybe 5 years older than my sister, and we grew up extremely close as well. So we was kind of like three peas in a pod. So it was me, my sister, and my aunt. So if you can't deal with us talking on a regular basis, you are not the guy for me. So I made that clear in the beginning.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. Yeah, and what guy wouldn't, you see the
Like,
smile
hey,
every day, right? I mean, why'd you not want
there
to
you
come home to
go.
that? So now
Why not?
you have 2 daughters that are
I do.
there's what, 6 or 7 years age difference, right?
Yes, yes. So I have a 13-year-old. Her name is Aubrey, and then my youngest is Taylor. She's 7.
And what similarities are you seeing between those 2, even with the age difference with that you and your
Oh
sister
my
had?
goodness. So here's the thing with them. And so, of course, they're at that age right now where the 13-year-old wants to tell the 7-year-old what to do. And Taylor's like, she's getting on my nerves. She doesn't want to be told what to do, and they fight a lot. But it's funny because my sister and I, as close as we are, I remember growing up, we used to fight all the time growing up. And then, of course, as we got older, that bond was just there. So with them, they'll have their moments, but it's super cute, especially in the morning, though, when they first wake up. They're all lovey-dovey for like the first 5 to 10 minutes, hugging and kissing each other. And then the rest of the day, they're just like, get away from me. But they definitely have that bond. And it's very important to me that they're close, and that they do understand, you just can't take life for granted. And we just don't know what tomorrow holds. So we have to just be there for each other and just, know that that's your sister. And there's going to be one day that mommy and daddy are not going to be here. And you two have to take care of each other. So we try to make sure we instill that in them.
I've always thought that in Webster's dictionary, the word sibling should have another explanation, and it would say, "We'll fight like cats and dogs, but it will eventually turn out okay because 'cause they'll be very good friends."
Yes, absolutely. And you can fight like cats and dogs, but you don't let anybody
No.
else mess with your
Yeah.
sister. Because
Only out
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
being on the school bus, and there was this little girl who would not let me sit down. And my sister she was quiet, but when it came to me, she would attack you in a minute. And this little girl would not let me sit down. And my sister almost took her head off. So she was nice, but when it came to me, she made sure I was okay.
My brother and I are just under, we're about a year and a half apart, maybe a little bit longer than that, and I can pummel my little brother, which I did. I was not a good big brother, but don't you
Oh
dare,
no.
don't anybody else. No, no.
That's
He's yeah,
right.
you
Yep.
can't say
I can
anything.
mess with them, but you can't.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's how that works. Mhm.
Yep. One of the questions I enjoy asking the most on the show is how did you meet your spouse? And do you both tell the story the same way?
Oh my goodness. So I actually met my spouse. So I was in college at the time. My spouse is older than me, so he's 10 years older. But I was in college. I was in the School of Business, and we were on a business trip. Actually, it was some type of like a conference or something we went to, but we were in Atlanta, and so of course, that was on my bucket list. I wanted to live there, so we're in college and we're out being grown, and of course, we went to the club, and that is actually where I met my husband. So people laugh all the time because you would think you wouldn't meet a guy in a club and you end up marrying them. But we just became really good friends, and we probably dated for maybe about 2 years, and just really got to know each other. And then once I moved to Atlanta, he was already living there. So that's where it started. But I met him in a club.
All
So
right. So
that's a,
two
it's a
questions
good
come to
story.
mind. One is, can he dance?
Yes, he can dance.
Okay, check that box, right?
Mhm.
And the second one is, I'd love to hear from him. I'll ask you the question. Do you remember the first time you set eyes on him?
So it would have been that night. So it would have been there.
And
So
what your
yeah, there when
thoughts
I saw
were
the
when
club.
you saw him? Were you introduced to him by a friend?
Oh. So actually, no. So you know how girls do, like we're all dancing together. Because of course we're out of town. We were high school, I'm not high school, college ladies, we're in the club. So we were all just dancing together. And so then like eventually some other guys came up and started dancing with us. So him and I started dancing, but I didn't really pay him any attention. And then I think maybe a couple songs played and we ended up dancing together again. And he just like popped up. And so I think from there, we just had like a drink or something and started talking. And so we had a little bit of a conversation and exchanged phone numbers. But yeah, we kind of just bumped into each other.
I don't think you casually bumped into each other. The fact that he stepped up there twice, I believe he had a plan.
Maybe he saw me,
Yeah,
right?
I kinda think he said like, "Oh, I
I
I
was
gotta go
having
dance
fun.
now."
Yeah, I was having fun. I thought it was just an occasional bump, but he could have been more calculated.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
possibly.
that's my hunch, yeah. No, and
Mhm.
so what did how much longer so you moved down to Atlanta then after college?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I went to that conference, I think I was maybe about 6 months out from graduating.
Okay.
So once I graduated, I think I stayed here for another maybe 3 to 4 months before I moved to Atlanta. And so he and I had been speaking the whole time. So he was already living there. So once I actually moved, then we were friends. And then once I actually moved, we actually started dating at that point. So
I'm a
the
big
rest is
fan.
history.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of those moments in time because
Yeah.
if you don't go to the conference or you went to the conference but you didn't go to that club or he
Yeah,
had other plans that night, you two probably
absolutely.
don't meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
then
he's a New Yorker. He's from New York,
yeah,
and so he had moved to Atlanta for business. His work relocated him. So yeah, we would have never met.
yeah.
So everything happens for a reason.
And I'm a huge fan of that, a total believer because and then you just wonder, yeah, where each of
Mhm.
you would be, and, yeah, I love
Yeah,
those moments in time where, "What are you doing here?" "I don't know, I just decided to show up," and poof, then the
absolutely.
road starts,
Yeah.
so I enjoy that a lot. One of the ways and I've introduced you to some folks, that are in my
Mhm.
BNI chapter, and I'm very happy to
Yeah,
do that. And the
thank you.
story I always use, and I want you to retell this because it's
Okay.
one of my favorite stories I've heard in BNI.
Okay.
The lady in South Korea
Yes.
that you were selling the house to sight unseen, and
Hmm.
I'll let you tell the story about what picture you sent her. So set up the
Ah,
story and
yes.
the payoff is the picture you sent her.
Absolutely. So this client was referred to me from a really good friend of mine. And so she works for the government. I think it's called the Foreign Service. And she lives in South Korea. So this entire process, and she's very analytical. So this entire process was me like riding around. Like my husband would drive and I would be riding around. I would have her on FaceTime and kind of just showing her the neighborhood and showing her the areas. I knew what was important to her in terms of being close to medical facilities, dry cleaners, grocery stores, and that type of thing. So we settled on Wake Forest is where she wanted to be. And she loved walking trails. So this particular community had tons of walking trails, so it was very accessible. So once we kind of narrowed that down, as we were going through the building process, she's a very tall lady. And so the shower is what got her with this home. It's called a super shower, and it just has all these features. And so the biggest thing with the shower, the handle that detaches off, we felt like it was too short. And in the model, what they were showing us is it was this really tall shower and it was all the way at the top. And she was just like, there is no way I'm going to fit. When I pull the handle up, it's going to be too low. And it was stressing her out like crazy. And of course, all of our interactions, everything was via Zoom. We did her pre-drywall inspection, all her inspections, her orientation, everything was just basically via Zoom with me holding my phone, taking her through the house. So she was having a lot of anxiety. I think we were maybe down to about a month before closing for the shower. So I had called the superintendent came over as well as the on-site agent. And so we got into her bathroom and I had him get into the shower. And I was like, I need you to stand here because he was about the same height she is. I said, let me take a photo of you. Take the handle off, act like you're taking a shower. I need her to have confidence in us that this is going to work out for her and that it's not going to be too big. So the photo that you're referring to, Mike, is a photo I shared in BNI when he's like this big guy is like standing in the shower and he had this look on his face of disgust. Like he did not want to do it, but he knew he wanted that home to sell. And they do not get paid until they have this satisfaction survey done where the buyer gives, how was the process? They have to be able to check off, like give them tens on everything for them to get paid. So he knew his check was on the line. So I had to make sure he got in the shower. But once he did that, she was so excited and she was just happy that I thought outside of the box and I took that extra step just to make sure that she was happy and that she had a good experience. So, needless to say, when she got here and saw her home, she was absolutely in love with it.
I love that story because it shows the thought process of how do I help my client, and it
Absolutely.
sounded like, why didn't you just tell her it was 6 feet 5 inches tall, or you could have given her all the
Yeah.
numbers, but she needed that visual. And let
See
me
it.
tell you,
Yeah.
there's no way that guy sold a house any easier than just stepping in a shower and holding that shower head, right?
Right. I'm telling you, in this market, step in the shower, it works.
And so next time you have to deal with him and you say, "Hey, I need you to do this." he should not ask you any
He'll
questions.
be on
He
board,
should just do
absolutely, and I come from new construction, so don't tell me you can't do it. I know what we can do in new
it.
construction, so it worked out
Yeah.
great.
Now, anybody listening or watching that's wanting to get into the real estate world, I'm going to tell you how it's done, and Felicia is going to give you a story about her weekend. Okay, but before we do that, we talked at the beginning of the show about the relationships, how long it can take to develop a relationship for you to be able to put your sign in their yard. There's some work to it, like you mentioned 2 or 3 times. There's trust involved.
Mhm.
So if you want to know the sign of a good realtor, folks, here's a sign of a good realtor. Felicia, what did you do this weekend?
So this weekend we had a house that's on the market. It's on a coming soon status, and so we actually plan on it going live on Wednesday was the plan. But of course, as you know, in this market, that doesn't happen. It doesn't take place. So they were out of town, and so we got the house on a coming soon status. We've been negotiating offers all weekend, so we're going to be able to get them wrapped up with a really great offer that's going to make them happy. Also, this weekend, we had a client who had a housewarming party. They closed with Dave last year. And so, he has this thing where they turned into clients, friends, and then family. And so now she is a part, or he is a part of her family. So he was invited to come out to her housewarming party to spend time with her. And then we have another client that is closing this Thursday, and it was her birthday. So she invited us to her birthday brunch. And she just got engaged that Saturday night. So we had like three things to celebrate: her birthday, her engagement, and the closing on her house on Thursday. So it's just a really great time just to have those connections. And, what's important to us is that we are starting this transaction with them as a client, but as you're spending time with them, you are becoming friends and you know what's important to them. And in the end, you are family because you spent that time together. And now with the transaction, you're not with someone for a month. You're usually in this process with them for at least about 4 to 6 months from start to finish. So that was our weekend and we enjoyed every second of it.
And there's two morals to that story that I heard. One is people rarely invite strangers to their house or their
There you
family
go.
events.
That's
And the
right.
second thing is going back to that time frame with the client, you've talked about everything from their
Mhm.
wants to their money to their family to their hesitations on I don't need this in a house, I don't need this in a neighborhood. So you know them real well, don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I always love the closing gifts. I think the closing gifts is like my favorite part of the transaction because they're always so surprised because as we're talking, you're learning like if they love to cook or you find out what's important to them. So when you put like this package together, and I'm big on baskets, I always like to do a basket because you can go have a gift made, but I like to do something that's personal. But I think probably my favorite is I have a client that closed last year. And so it was new construction. And him and his family, they went into the home and they wrote scriptures like on before they put the drywall up. So the framing inside of their house has all some of their favorite Bible verses on it. And so he had taken a photo and he sent it to me. And so I saved that photo. So for their closing gift, I had this really nice, it was a Lady Susan that was made, but I took his favorite scripture that he texted me that they wrote in the home and had that on this Lazy Susan. And so every time, and again, we're friends now. So I've seen them a couple of times. So it just warms my heart when I walk in and see this lazy Susan on their dining room table with that because it just means so much. It's a way for them just to kind of have that peace with them. But then every time they see it, they think about me, they think about the transaction, just how special it is to them.
And folks, if you're thinking about wanting to hire a realtor, it's the little things that make the
Thank you.
difference. Felicia, this has been a blast having you on. I'm so happy for you and Dave with your E3 partnership. Look forward to
Thank you.
following that. And I know 2022 is probably going to be a success because y'all
Absolutely.
have probably put a lot of things into place already.
Yes, we're off to a great start. We have a lot of support and we just have just a heart for our clients. And that's why we wake up every day. So it's pretty amazing.
We've been during the show, we've been putting your phone number up there, and the website
Awesome.
is e3realtygroup.com.
That's
They
correct.
can go read about you, read about Dave, read about everything y'all have going on, and why they need to hire you as a realtor, basically, is what they're going to find out, right?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Definitely can't go wrong.
All right. Well, Felicia, thank you very much for coming on the show today. Had a lot of fun. Good luck with everything. And we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.